I recently got an email from someone who's worried about the possibility of geothermal drilling in their area causing an earthquake. They wrote, "I live in an area that is seismically quiet. However, there are plans for a geothermal plant nearby. Does geothermal energy production pose a risk for increasing seismic activity?" It's great that you're thinking about this. It's important to be aware of the risks of different energy technologies, and it's especially important to consider this when we're talking about earthquake risks. Because here in the Bay Area, we already have a fault line that goes right through the city. So it's good to know if geothermal is going to make things worse. And the good news is that geothermal drilling, the process of drilling down into the earth to get to those high temperature resources that we can use to generate electricity, typically doesn't cause earthquakes. The reason why? It's because the vast majority of earthquakes are caused by the sudden slip of rocks along geologic faults. Faults are these fractures in the Earth's crust where rocks have been wrenched and twisted over millions of years. As they move past each other, stress builds up and eventually the stress is released in an earthquake. And while drilling for geothermal energy does involve going deep into the earth and even injecting water into hot rocks, this activity typically does not cause the kind of earthquakes that we're concerned about. That's because faults tend to be fairly localized features. They're not like giant, fault plains that cover entire regions. They're usually just a few feet wide, maybe a few tens of feet wide. And so if you drill into a fault, you might hit it, you might not, depending on how far off it you are. But for the most part, the drilling itself doesn't do anything to destabilize the fault. It's not like digging a hole into a fault makes it more likely to slip. And we don't really see any change in seismicity near geothermal wells unless you're right on top of an active fault line. Now, in some places, geothermal wells have triggered earthquakes, but these are typically very small earthquakes that no one can feel. These small quakes are caused by the injection of cold water into hot rocks. That rapid temperature change can cause the rock to crack, which triggers an earthquake. Again, these are tiny earthquakes, typically less than a magnitude 2. Now, a magnitude 2 earthquake is enough to shake things up a little bit, but it's typically not something that people notice. It's not going to rattle your dishes or anything like that. But even these tiny quakes can cause problems. If you've ever been in a hospital or a historic building, you'll know that even a little bit of shaking can be enough to cause damage. But thankfully, these induced earthquakes are usually pretty rare. Most of the time, even when we inject a lot of water into hot rocks, we don't see any earthquakes at all. What's more, the vast majority of geothermal plants are only using water that's already there. They're not injecting new water into the system. So the chances of them triggering earthquakes is even lower. So to answer the question in the email, no, geothermal energy production does not pose a risk for increasing seismic activity, at least not in any significant way. You might get a tiny quake now and then, but again, these are not earthquakes that we need to worry about. Thanks for watching this episode. If you'd like to learn more about geothermal energy, check out the link below. We have a whole bunch of resources about how geothermal works and what the benefits and challenges are. Also, a big thanks to all of our supporters who help us make videos like this. We couldn't keep doing this without you, so thanks so much. And if you want to support us, check out the link below.